like they're floating past the children's classrooms. So you can go and watch the video if you want, not to detract from this, but after this, go and Instagram Manly Observer, and you'll see a video where literally I think it's a Jeep or something, like it's a heavy vehicle, is literally just floating past the kids' classroom.
Oh my gosh. Because I had a friend from Melbourne call me yesterday and ask if I was okay, was I safe? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And I said, I think it's like a little bit further north, but clearly it's coming in this way. But are you safe and dry, Liz?
Luckily, I'm good. Yeah, 7 stories above the ground on the one side and ground level on the other. It's like a big slope, so I think the water will just go accumulate at the bottom.
It'll go straight past you. You'll be fine. Yeah. It collects at the bottom of our hill a little bit, so the road was a little bit flooded about an hour ago, but it looks fine now.
Oh gosh!
I think it was just coming down a bit too fast.
Well, honestly, with all of these discussions and stuff, it's been really kind of pertinent for me to think about like what I can control and how I can show up in my day, because there's so much. I don't want to say noise, because these are things that are actually impacting people's lives that are really important, right? So it's not noise, but because there's so much that can be seen as distressing, well, basically that distresses me, I really thought a session like this would be valuable, even more so.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So I've just started recording, so we'll be able to send this to anyone who isn't able to make it. So we'll probably kick off in a minute, because it's 8 minutes past, so I think it probably makes sense to kick off now. Okay, so hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming today. I'm joining you from the clouds. So this is the first of Striven's International Women's Week webinars. We decided to take the whole week rather than just a day. So I'm Christina. I'm head of marketing at JobAdder. And today I'm joined here with Emma Willox, who is an executive and wellbeing coach. Thanks for coming, Emma.
Thank you for having me, and happy International Day to everyone. Yes. International Women's Day, sorry.
Yes.
How is everybody feeling?
I can say that I'm stressed.
Oh. Well, thank you for having me. Today, I just wanted to talk through a few little tips and tricks and tools to help people create routines, rituals, and boundaries during stressful times. And this is used throughout stressful times and non-stressful times. So my intention for today is to give you some tools to take away. So it's not to overwhelm, and it's not for you to do everything that is suggested here, but it's to go through, take a little tip each day and just try and add on from there and have it stack on, see how you go. So before we start, let's just have a quick poll to see how everybody is feeling. So on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being you're feeling enlightened, in the flow and in your way, to 10 being you are about to explode and you just don't want to get out of bed. How's everyone feeling? Pop it in the chat. Seven. 8, 7, 6. Okay, perfect. So everyone's certainly not feeling too much in the flow. Okay, so what we'll do to start with is we'll just start a little bit of calming down so everyone can actually just enjoy this session. So I want you just to take a seat on your seat if you can. If you can place your feet on the floor. And then what I want you to do is just place your hands around your rib cage if you can, or one hand on your heart, one hand on your lower tummy. What I want you to do is close down the eyes and take a nice breath in through the nose, and just softly exhale through the mouth. Now, what I want you to imagine as you feel your feet on the floor, I want you to imagine that the ground is coming up to support you. So you can start to feel your feet, you can start to feel the ground coming up and supporting the feet, supporting the weight of the legs. And as you breathe in, you can start to feel the back of your seat, your bed or your sofa, just supporting the sit bones. And as you lean back, You're not leaning into the chair is coming up and supporting you. Take another breath in through the nose. And then as you exhale, it just supports you that little bit more. As you breathe in through the nose, imagine the diaphragm, which is placed under the rib cage. But it's just softly blowing up like a balloon. So you're starting to expand the rib cage through the sides and through the back of the body. The shoulders may lift up softly. And as you exhale, imagine from the lowest part of your tummy, you're exhaling the breath all the way out. We'll do 3 more like that at your own pace. Inhale through the nose, expand into the diaphragm, and from the lowest part of the tummy, exhaling any stagnant energy or breath all the way out as you melt even deeper. 2 more like that, just knowing that there's nowhere else that you need to be right now. Nothing you need to think about. You just need to allow the feet and the ground to hold you. 1 more here. And then exhale. And then when you're ready, you can just gaze down at the top of your cheeks, softly crack the eyes open. And then when you're ready, just gaze up. And that's just a breathing technique that you can do at any point when you're feeling a little bit stressed. And the idea of that is to calm down the nervous system. So we want to get away from chest breathing and breathing into the side of the rib cage and into the side of the back. So we'll get started. So thank you very much for everyone joining. If anyone does have any questions throughout this, please feel free to pop it in the chat or shout out. That's not a problem. So I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of routines, rituals, and boundaries during these stressful times. So over the last 2 years, we've had COVID, we've had these stressful, we've had uncertainty, and prior to that, we've had the floods, we've had the fires. So what's happened as a society for the last 4 years? We've been running through this uncertain times, and it's been tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And what happen is we can become so familiar that is how we're living, that we're forgetting that it's the opposite way. We should be living in a calmer state, but yet we should be having these heightened moments throughout the day, but not regularly throughout the day. And so the problem with stress is it can come in many different forms, but we class it all as one. So we've got despair, anxiety, sadness, grief, exhaustion, and irritability. Now there's many, many more, but what happens is we just class them all as stress, which means that stress is overwhelming. Depending which emotion you're feeling will have a different reaction in the body. So if we're trying to numb it or heal it all with one way of being, we've actually got different elements of stress going on. So once we know and understand to name and frame these feelings better, we can then regulate them better. So for example, if you were feeling sad and there's grief of, it could be the grief of the loss of a parent, it could be the grief at the loss of a pet, it could be the grief at the loss of the life we once had, because that's not coming back, and it's certainly not coming back anytime soon. So when you have sadness and grief like that, you go into a certain state, which we'll talk later on about. You want to nurture that. But if you're feeling despair and anxiety and irritated, sometimes breath work's not going to curb it, because you want to get the energy out. So it might be you need to go to a boxing class. You might need to just get up and do 10 burpees. I don't know. You might need to, but there's certain times when you need to get the energy out in order to then self-soothe. So that's why when I talk about stress is multidimensional, we can. It's not a case of having a feeling and putting it all under the stress banner. They are there, but when we start to name and shame them, we can then regulate them better. So the difference between our routines, rituals, and boundaries. So the reason I talk about the 3 of these is because I believe we need all 3 of them, especially working from home. I'm working with a lot of people that are struggling. We struggled to adapt to working from home. Now we're struggling to adapt to go back into the office. So again, we've got these huge pivotal changes in our lives. There's no rule book, and we're all trying to get through this in one stage. So the difference between your routines is the routines are it's the different activities in our lives. So it's the space between the roles that we play. So for example, you get up in the morning, you have an exercise routine, and that's where you go. Then you come home, and then you might have a routine of having a shower, and then you get set for work. So you've got these routines to differentiate between when you get up in the morning as if you were, and then when you come home and you're going to work. So whether you're going to work in a home office or whether you're back into the office, you still want to create a sense of getting changed, putting your makeup on, being there on time on the computer, so that you're creating these routines to separate the difference in our activities in our lives. Our rituals, I love our rituals. I love a good ritual. And this creates a sacred time and space. And what that means is that over time, when you can follow through on your rituals, what can happen is you can create an imprint on the brain and the body. So meaning that if you were to get up in the morning and meditate and you realize that you can feel a sense of calm throughout the day, you know that you can then pull in on breath work. You know that you could sit and have a 5-minute meditation. If you're on Zoom, you can put your screen off for 5 minutes. No one actually knows what's going on at the time. And so therefore, what happens with a ritual is it's like a little rescue remedy in your pocket. You can pull them out at any point. With breath work, you can sit in a meeting and actually do the breath work there and nobody would know. So the thing with rituals is it's your sacred moment to yourself, which is just a little top up into your cup. And then the boundaries are where they're outer limits. That's where we don't cross. And that's up. It's important for us. And a lot of people don't always set healthy boundaries. And sometimes when we allow people to push our boundaries, it does create a sense of lack of self or lack of self-worth. It's not that we have a lack of self-worth, but when people cross our boundaries, we can get frustrated. And again, later on, I'll talk about the differences in how this can react onto the body. So that's the 3 differences. And I believe we need all 3 of them in order to kind of get through the day. Again, when I'm talking about this today, it will seem like there is a lot to do. But what happens is when you think about it, if I was to say to you, for example, get up in the morning and exercise, and then you're going to meditate, and then do a little bit of journaling, and then you're going to create some boundaries. You think you've got a full-time job before you even start your day. But the crux of it is when you start to incorporate in just baby steps and just pick 1 and do it for a week, and then pick 2 and then do it for a week. Because the crux of it is, if we spoke about it, if I said I get up in the morning and I drink some water and I put a cleanser on my face and then I put a serum and then I put a moisturizer and then I have a shower and I put on body wash and body moisturizer, that sounds overwhelming. But it's just a habit that we do now because we don't think about it. So when I'm listing things out like this, I'm very aware that it sounds overwhelming, but just know that we're creating patterns over time. And slowly it'll become a pattern for you that you just get up and you know that your meditation will make you calmer. You won't want to miss it. It's like the other thing about where, when we're like little babies and we get a tooth, we brush our tooth, or your mum brushes your tooth, and then you get more and you brush your teeth. And then over time you create this habit. But we don't want to, I don't think anyone loves to brush their teeth because of the notion of brushing your teeth. Not like, I can't wait to go home and get my toothbrush and brush my teeth. But we do it for oral hygiene because we know it'll be better. So once you start to see the benefits of just taking one of these and simply implementing it into your life, and you start to see the benefits, and then it becomes part of your everyday life. And then it's the gift that keeps on giving, because you can then start to pull this into a day, throughout a night, throughout stressful situations. So let's talk about, so that's all good. We've understood the stresses and that we've got different elements of it. We've understood that if we get our rituals, routines, and boundaries, that life should be good. But unfortunately, it's not, because what can happen is, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is we go from fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Now, what that is that when we go into these states, it's when our sympathetic nervous system is activated. And so what can happen is we can perceive a threat. So if you were to walk into a room and there was a tiger. That's not a perceived threat. You're right. You should be scared and you should run. Okay. But what can happen is when we have a thought, our thought creates a feeling and a feeling creates a behavior. So what can happen is if we're at work and we might perceive that our boss is not happy with us, our partner is not happy with us, our family are not accepting us. We can perceive these things and then it puts our bodies into a state that it's not safe. So our nervous system is like our biggest bodyguard, and it's got sensors all around that in every second of every day, it's actually going, is that safe? Is it not? Is it safe? Is it not? Is it safe? Is it not? And so throughout having patterns throughout our life, when we perceive something that might trigger an old pattern, that that's not safe, we lose the fact of our reality of what's going on. We then drop into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and that will determine our behavior to that situation. So when we're in this nervous system state, it's very hard to think calmly when your body feels like it's on high alert and that there is a tiger chewing at your ankles. So how do we get back to that calming state? Because you can't operate with the two separate. And this is when you talk about body-mind connection. So when the two are separate, it's like what I would call headless chicken. You're not thinking about your reality. You're missing life. You're in a spin. You're driving to work and you can't even remember how you drove to work. So and I'm happy to share this slide or any slides, but if anyone wants to take a screenshot and I can send it to you after. But the difference is, when I was talking earlier about the different stress levels, is how we react. So if, for example, I went into fight mode, I would be thinking aggressively. So that might be if you're feeling that you're not good enough in your job and your boss was to give you feedback. Oh, hold on, my battery. You might therefore react in a way. Oh, my battery's just not there. You might then react in a way that would be defensive, but you've lost the reality of what he's saying. You've jumped ahead, your body's in flight, your hormones are racing, and you've already perceived that he's not happy with you, and therefore your reaction will be there. If it's flight, you're running from danger. Quite often children will do this when their parents are arguing. They don't want to deal with it. They're just going to they're just going to run. I can't deal with it. It's too much. My body cannot deal with what's going on right now, and then you'll run. We've then got the freeze, which is where you just don't say anything. And you just want to go home and you don't want to think about it. Quite often freeze is quite often where addictions may come in, numbing, shopping. I'm just going to freeze. It's like a little child putting their fingers in their ears. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I'm just going to numb it out. And then we've got fawn, which is where you want to just people please. And these are all heightened states of our nervous system. So once you understand which one you've got, once you understand your stress levels, you can then know how to operate what the body might need. So after all that, how do we regulate our nervous system? So because our nervous system is the biggest protector for us, we need to let the nervous system know that we are safe and that it's not a reality of what's going on. One thing I always teach my clients is when you get into this state is have a reality check. Is it an assumption or is it a fact? Assumptions are fake and facts are real. So we'll use the example of a manager giving you back feedback. Do you actually know that they're not happy, or is it an assumption? Because if it's an assumption, it's fake. So you're actually going through moments in your life creating stress on your body for something that's not even real. Now, when you word it like that, you kind of wake up and think, wow, okay, it's not real. So therefore, that's all good and well, but again, it's very hard to have an awareness to get you there. So now that you can start to feel things happening in your body, how do you to regulate it? One of the big tricks that I do is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when you stop there, what's 5 things you can touch? Because when the nervous system is like this, it feels that we're unsafe. We need to say to it that we are safe. I'm at home. I'm on a webinar. Everything is real. Nothing is going to happen to me right now. And if it is, I can't control it. If there's a tsunami about to come through my window, I can't control it. But I can't sit here and be in a heightened state perceiving that, for example, Liz thinks this is the worst webinar she's ever seen. I can't sit and do that because I'm wasting my life. It's not real. So 5 things you touch. And for example, when I talk about this, I want you to actually feel. So for example, I would pick up my wallet and I'd have a wallet here. Now we can touch it like this, but still logically be away. So actually feel breath like we did in the beginning and actually look at the detail on the zip. And just take a second to drop into whatever it is you're feeling. Feel something else. Then what's 4 things you can see? I can see my water bottle. It's 3/4 full. I can see a picture of my father. That will remind me of a reality. You can see these things. And then what's 3 things you can hear? And sometimes when you hear silence, that's actually quite lovely and very calming. Do the breath work. You can hear your breath and I can hear the wind. 2 things I can smell. I've always got an oil on the go. Smell an oil. I can smell a herbal tea. And then 1 thing that you can taste your tea. And by doing these things slowly, what you're actually doing is calming the system down to say that I'm real and I'm here. There's another tip that you can do that I do quite often when I feel like this is spinning out of control, and I'll show you now. So if you come down to the collarbones, just at the bottom of the collarbones, either take a thumb and cross your fingers or take 2 fingers. And you're just going to rub under there. And some days it won't feel very sensitive, but if this feels quite tight and sensitive, that's a sign that you're in quite a high stressful state. So when you rub there, if you feel really quite anxious, you can just rub up and down a little bit more vigorously, like that. And then what you can start to do, look at us all having a rub. Yeah. And then what you can start to do is you can start to say, I'm calm. I am calm. I'm safe. I'm calm. I'm here. I'm under control with my work. I'm doing all these things. And then what will happen is you'll slowly start to calm down, and then you can just massage those spots. And there's another little tip that I want to tell everyone about. It's an amazing hack. So again, when you're feeling like you're disconnected from your body, you bring your hands out in front. So see if you can see me. You flick them around, push your hands away, reach them up overhead, and then bring it down to the back of your head. Keep your head straight and then gaze to the left. And keep gazing, but keep your head straight until you sigh or till you yawn. Liz, keep your head a little bit more straight and then eyes right round. And then once you get a sigh or a yawn, then you look to the right. And then once you've finished, you release the arms down. And that's another way, a cooperative way of bringing the mind back into the body. And then you've calmed your nervous system down. And then you can logically start to see what is the feeling? What state have I gone into? What is my reality? Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Excellent. So I'll talk you through this, and it's the Levels of Consciousness by David R. Hawkins. This is quite a phenomenal chart, and I highly recommend you can get this on Google. It's super interesting. And what this can talk about is the levels of consciousness or our frequency. So we are all vibration. And so when we're in the lower vibration, it's very hard to feel joy because it's almost like we're swimming with our clothes on. And I don't know if anyone's ever noticed, but you might have a friend and you catch up with them and they give you a hug and you leave and you think, oh, she's just so good for the soul. They're just a great person. I always feel amazing when I leave them. They will be operating up in this level here. Or equally, you might be operating up here and you might have a friend or a family member or a relative that when you come away, you feel quite drained from. And that's because they'll be operating in a level down here. And so the same chart, but just different explanations. And so if you think about it, if we were a lot of people at the moment, like if you look at shame down here, shame is like one of the lowest vibrational feelings that we can have. And so when you feel shame about something, you're really dropping down into that lower vibration. Everything is heavy, shoulders are coming forward. The emotion would be humiliation. The process would be humiliation, elimination, and then the self-view would be miserable, which sounds awful. And then in here, there's inaction. So you can't take action because it is like going against the grain. So the more we want to do is, again, this is why I talk about the importance of breath work, body movement, meditation. It's all these tiny, tiny little modalities that when you implement into your day, you start to come up the ladder. You start to feel more. You start to raise your vibration more. And the higher you come up, and you've got power, strong, weak, and force. So you want to power up, and this is where you actually stop and smell the roses of life. This is when you're operating in this high vibration frequency, you're more open and receptive to all the goodness that is around. And have you ever had a time in your life when you think, oh my gosh, I got the job, and oh my gosh, I got the house, and oh my gosh, I won the car, and all these things are happening, and everything's just amazing. But you will be operating in a position from up here. And then you can see here happiness and productivity, synchronicity, peak performance without stress. And the higher you go, the more the emotions in the process. And throughout the day, you can drop in and out of this, but it's having the awareness to go, okay, I'm feeling fear right now. What am I fearing? I'm feeling I might lose my job. Is it a reality, or is it assumption or a fact? Assumption or fact, an assumption. And then you start to peel away the fear. And then you can start to deal with things and then lift your vibration higher for that. And the other amazing thing about all this is the way that we're designed is you can actually only have one cognitive thought at a time. So if you're to go, I am feeling fearful, then what you can do is have a reality check and think of something good. Think of your daughter, think of your son, think of a parent, think of your loved one, think of something good in your life, because you can only have one thought. And there's only one person in this universe that can choose your thoughts, and that's you. So again, it's if you're in this lower vibration, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting you just think of something good and you raise up to the enlightened stage within a drop of a hat. It's not like that. But there is a certain element of habits and tools and things that we can do to empower ourselves to get out of those ways. And the reason that I think I love this tool at the moment is because what is going on externally in the world, like Liz, you said, white noise, and what can you control? So it's devastating what's going on in the world. But in order, collectively, the best thing any one of us could do when we're not internally struggling is to lift the conscious vibration of the collective in order to lift it everywhere. So there is enough people out there suffering in Ukraine, North New South Wales, Queensland, wherever it's going on. They are in a world, the world is in a world of pain right now. But collectively, what can we do as an individual when we're not personally suffering is to lift our vibration. And it's not selfish, it's actually empowering to the rest of the collective, if that makes sense. So I'll pass that one on. Okay, so we've got internal and external stresses. Now what we've come back down to what can we control, and stresses that will control, stresses in our lives that how do we control? And they're real, we have to get them down. So this would be, there's a model called Control, Influence, Accept. And I haven't put it up today, but I can send it to anyone who wants it. So when we get a to-do list and we're feeling overwhelmed, I don't know if anyone has ever found this way where you get overwhelmed and you start 8 things and finish nothing. And then at the end of the day, you're even more frustrated because you haven't finished anything. but you're too busy spinning back in here to get forward. So what's a circuit breaker we can do there? So it's something we can control, and it's called the Pomodoro technique or Pomodoro theory. So what it is getting a to-do list. If you've got a to-do list, on one side, write your to-do list. On the other side, write what I'm not going to do list. I'm not going to scroll. I'm not going to procrastinate. I'm not going to live in fear. And I am going to empower myself. So whenever we do an I am, we're imprinting it into the body. I am going to get through my to-do list. I am going to be productive today. I am, words like that. And then simply what you do, and I live by this tool because I think it's phenomenal. You pick a task, you set a timer, you work on it till that time is finished, and you take a 5-minute break. And then you come back and you do it 4 times. You finished an hour and then you get through it. Because what's happening also nowadays is that we're all losing the ability to focus. So through social media, through the traumas of what's going on in the world, and just through general life, we are all scrolling. And so, is it Johanna Hari? He wrote a book called Stolen Focus, and he talks about that at the moment where we're losing the will to focus, and we're actually not flexing our focus muscle. And so, therefore, by doing something like this, we're focusing our muscle. So instead of looking at my to-do list and thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to start? You just pick a task and think, I've only got 25 minutes. And in 25 minutes, I'm going for a walk around the block, or I'm going to stretch, or I'm going to have a sandwich, or I'm going to do something. And then you come back to it. I actually have an amazing app called the Flora app, Flora, sorry. And it can be free, or you can pay $2.99, and you set your timer on it. And if you go to pick up your phone to scroll, to distract, it says you're not going to plant a tree. And then you feel guilty. So you put the phone down because you've realized you've just automatically gone to pick your phone up. And what it does is you can pay $2.99 or $5.99. And once you've done so many rounds, the money goes to plant a tree in third world country. So it pulls at your heartstrings. And it's just such a good way, because even people who are not disciplined, they will look and they'll think, oh, it's only 25 minutes. I've done 15, that will be fine. But when you've actually got something telling you to put your phone down, you then have a conscious choice to not do it. So that's where you look into this. So it's an amazing technique. It's on your to-do list. The other thing about doing something like this is working from home. I don't know if anyone else finds this. You can get focused on a task or a presentation or a job, and then you think, I'll put a load of washing on. And then you come back. And then you think, is it snack time yet? And then you want to come back. Whereas this just helps you map out your day in a more structured form so that you can actually just do your work. And again, it's that boundaries, creating boundaries at home. So we're not working from home now, we're working with home. So we work with home. How do we work with our home? Okay, well, I set a boundary. This is my office space. I come in here from 9 till 6, and that's all I do. I don't come in here on the weekends, and whatever your boundaries are. But that is an amazing technique. And you can, again, screenshot that if you want, or the app is the Flora app, which I can pop in the chat later. So the next thing we're going to talk about is nourishing your body. So are you feeding your stress, or are you calming it? So when we're talking about stress, we've got our routines and rituals and all these kind of the good things, and we've understood it all. And then another part of this puzzle is, are we feeding our stress? And what I mean by that is, when we get up first thing in the morning, we open our eyes. So when we sleep, when we first waken up, we've got about a 1 to 3 second window of cognitively when we're waking up and we don't know where we are. You know when a baby wakes up and like maybe 6 months old? Well, Christina, you've got a little boy. Is it a boy? Yeah. And so if he wakens up, maybe not because he's a little bit older now, but when they were like that 6 months and they just open their eyes, they're not all of a sudden screaming to get a rattle or check their emails or wondering what's for lunch. And although they're little and you feed them, they're still not alert. They're just in the present moment. And that's actually how we are when we wake up. 1 to 3 seconds. And so what can happen is, when we are in if we've been accustomed to living in a flight, fight, freeze, or fawn, that has become familiar to us. Now that's what we want to undo, is that's not how we're designed. So if we become in a state of stress that it's familiar, what can sometimes happen is, and when you're having a transition from creating all these boundaries and routines and rituals and really stepping through some of this work, what can happen is you can open your eyes and then you think, "Ooh, I'm calm. That's not normal. Okay, I need to get myself alert." And then you get on your phone because it's so important that you need to check your emails at 7 o'clock in the morning because I want to feel familiar. And that heightened state is familiar. Oh my gosh, I need to have a coffee. I can't operate in the morning without my coffee. Well, you actually can operate without a coffee, but you're creating this stress in your life. So again, it's having these windows of opportunity to wake up in the morning and a boundary. I don't check my phone, and I'm not going to check my phone until 8 o'clock. Whatever your boundary is, and then again, it's just that practice of coming back to yourself, where you're creating a sense of calm, sending a signal to yourself that this is how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life in high alert. I don't want to live my life. And then also, are you feeding the stress? So do you get up first thing and have a coffee? Are you getting in at night and thinking, gosh, I need a glass of wine? Are you operating, or are you getting up in the morning and having a warm water and lemon? Are you then waiting an hour to have a coffee? At lunchtime, are you just, is there a way that you can plan lunch or anything? Or are you kind of stuffing a frozen meal in that might not be beneficial for you, instead of just taking the time to quickly cook some chicken and vegetables and stuff that will give you energy so that your digestive system can calmly digest that through the day? So again, how you eat, what you eat. And I'm very, very aware that it's not easy for everyone to sit down and, chew each mouthful 100 times. Not that I know anyone that does that. I'll be grazing like cattle at this rate. But again, it's just the small things. This is just a slow transition of little changes that will slowly accumulate. And it's back to my story about when you brushed your teeth as a baby. Your mom would religiously tell you, and there's a little bit of reparenting going on here, I'm going to continually get up in the morning and not check my phone. I'm going to continually get up. No, because I don't want to be in that heightened state. And the other thing is I talk about is when we do live in these states that we are kind of up there, we're designed to be at a higher frequency, a calmer state, and then we are designed to go up and then come back down like this. But these days, what we're doing is we're getting up in the morning and we're putting ourselves into a state up here, and we're maintaining that level. And it's basically like taking a car from Sydney to Brisbane and driving it in first gear and getting to Brisbane and wondering why your engine's blowing up. And you've just driven it in first gear. But we continually go through life in first gear. Whereas when you learn to change down into second, into third, into fourth, and into fifth, you might come across something during the day. It might be a roadblock, an email, an argument, something, and it will shift you into first gear. But then how do you come back down to fifth gear to cruise through the rest of the day? And also rehydration, water is super important. So again, it's a lot of information, but it's just where in your life could you start to make just small baby steps? And it's not expected that you're meant to now go out and do a full meal plan and start meditating for an hour and having a full-blown journal filled by Friday. It's not about that. And it's also about understanding, like what I said in the beginning, what is the emotion that you're feeling that is creating stress? What state have you gone into? Is it fight, flight, fawn, or freeze? What do I need to do to regulate that? And if it's irritable and someone has annoyed you, then it is punch into a pillow, get that energy out, do your 10 burpees, go to a boxing class. But try not go to a yoga or breath when you're feeling irritated. Get the energy out and then self-soothe. If it's the grief, if it's the loss, can you have a warm soup at night? Can you self-soothe? Can you just take time to journal about your feelings? So that's why, although there's a lot of tools in here, It's giving you the tools to go, what do I need right now? And you can just ask yourself each day, what do I need right now? Maybe you want to journal, maybe you don't. And it's just about having the awareness to go through your days like that. And there you go. Does anyone have any questions for me? Or anything that's going on for them that they want me to help them with?
I thought it was so interesting that you were talking about from the moment we wake up, we're up in this really heightened state and we just kind of stay there. Sometimes I find myself, I might feel really tired, but I don't know if it's just that I'm relaxed and I'm not used to feeling that way. So I feel tired, whereas I think I'm actually just not in a heightened state, but I don't know the difference anymore.
Yes. And that's it, because it's become familiar.
Yeah.
It's become familiar. And I think if we were to go back, I don't know, say 20 years, and then we would be very, a lot calmer. And then something might put us in a spin and we'd come home and say, gosh, I feel really anxious today. This is not good. And we would want to deal with the issue. Whereas now we've seemed to have flipped it around and now we're living in this heightened state where that is the familiar. And it's a thing as well. And one of the things that I'm so passionate about this work is because I watched my father pass. I cared for my father, and he had a very slow, painful, awful, traumatic death. And it was all to do with not listening to the body and stressful life and all these kind of things. And that's why I look and I think the body is your biggest doctor. And that's why if I can make an impact on anyone to not get to an elderly age of 50, 60, 70, and then get some whopping diagnosis, to then look back and go, oh my God, why did I spend my 30s and 40s just like a headless chicken? For what? To try and get a boss to I'm impressed with, And that's where it's about these little steps and finding these little golden nuggets throughout your day to kind of really stop and just allow to shift gear, to drop into that fifth gear.
I think what you've touched on there is so important. A friend of mine was telling me about a book called Inflamed, which is basically, apparently, about how we obviously get information in the body, but how we're almost programmed to think about fighting inflammation, fighting any disease. Like you've got to push through, you've got to, So the moment, to Christina's point, the moment you're not exerting yourself to max capacity, right? Are you performing? Are you, etc.? So I think, whereas like Emma, what you're saying is really the opposite. You should be sensitive to the moments where you are overexerting yourself. You're really almost now sensitive to the moments where you're not.
Yes, exactly. We've shifted the whole thing around. And Dr. Libby Weaver, I think her name is, she's in New Zealand. She does an amazing TED talk, and she talks about this was before COVID, and she talks about a pandemic of working women and mums. Because it's International Women's Day, I'll talk about it. And she said that she's got these clients coming in, and they're on their hands and their knees because they're trying to be a mother, kind of working with her, and trying to run the house. And she said, as a big generalization, there might be a mum, a dad, and a child, and they might be pretty equal, but predominantly, and I'm not saying this is everyone, but predominantly, the child will go to the mum. Predominantly, the woman will have to stand up more in the boardroom because she's a woman, but she'll be the one that will leave. If the child is sick, predominantly, she'll go and pick it up. And then predominantly, she'll clean the majority of the house. And then what's happening nowadays is we've now got every kind of plastic surgery thing going that God do age by a day over 30. And, it's just not acceptable anymore. So we've now got this way of not even enjoying our aging gracefully and just enjoying our life because we've got these comparisons. And she said before, like, I don't know, was it 15 years ago? I don't know, how old is Facebook? 15, 18 years? And she said before that, we didn't have any of this. And so it's not long in the last 15, 18 years how society has changed. But on a cellular level, we're still designed the same. And so we're wondering why we're getting all these things. We're not designed for this heightened state. We're not designed to be this go, go, go. We're not designed to be answering emails at 7 in the morning. But also what happens is we've created a society, and I think it is slowly getting better because I've seen it on a few emails. I'll respond if you can send me this email anytime you want, but I will respond during my working hours. And I've seen a couple of CEOs doing that, women CEOs. I think it's so powerful because it's like, I'm not answering that. This is my work hours. But we get into this way of thinking because everything is just so here and now that, we get an email, we must respond. But again, because we're in that heightened state, it's that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I better respond. Whereas if we took a breath and had a reality check, do I need to respond? Is someone going to die? Is a building going to blow up? Is it, do I really need to respond to that email? And again, it's your boundaries, but it's you can't control the other people sending the emails, but you can control your boundaries to when you send them.
And we're so
and if you are sending out emails, put them on a timer so that the person gets them at 8 o'clock in the morning, so you can get them off your to-do list, so you don't have to worry about them. Don't invade someone's privacy. You can put a timer on there, and again, lead by example.
Yeah, my boss is really good at doing that. She schedules all her Slack messages for 9 a.m. I see a bunch of them come through right at 9 a.m. because I think sometimes she sits up the night before to feel more organized. I think I could definitely learn something from that.
Yeah. And it also just gives you a sense of there's no panic in the morning because you don't have to send the emails because it's already been done.
Yeah.
Then I can take my time. I can have a nighttime routine. I can have a morning routine. And your nighttime routines, I didn't touch on this today actually, but your nighttime routines are equally as important as your morning routines. And again, it's like a little baby. You give them a little bath and you rub on his cream and put on their little pajamas and read them a little book so that they have a nice sleep. But yet we seem to sit and beaver away till midnight and then go, oh my God, is that the time? I haven't had dinner. Eat a tin of tuna and go to bed and then wonder why we're not sleeping well. But we wouldn't do it to if you had a version of yourself at say maybe 5 or 6 years old, you wouldn't ask them to sit here and have a bad night, do things to have a bad night's sleep. When we convert it back into that, we can actually then again internalize how we look after ourselves.
That's a really good way to think about it. Probably because the little baby thing is very close to me and my reality right now. But that's true. I make sure that he has his routine. Why don't I do that for myself?
Yeah. And again, it really is as simple as just one little step. And in one day, you might think meditation is my best thing ever. And then some days you might feel like I really need to journal right now. And then some days you might be in your higher vibration and you think, I will meditate, but I'll meditate later. But the sun's shining, it's been raining, I'm going to go for my run. And then you mix it up. So it's not that everything's set in stone and there is no failure if you don't meditate every day. But it's about understanding what is going on. And life will always be full of ebbs and flows. And one constant is change in life. And so when the sticks are down and you're feeling in that lower vibrations, it's actually just sitting with it and embracing that feeling. But equally, when the times are good, again, journaling about it, because journaling about the moment so that when you look back on your journal and you get back into an ebb or a flow, you can think, well, I have been here before and I do want to get back there. And so it's not just about journaling the bad stuff and the emotional stuff and the bad feelings. It's about journaling and meditating through the good times as well. And again, embracing that feeling of that higher vibration so that when you are feeling a little bit sticky or a little bit stuck, you can remember when you felt like that. And then it's just not such a darker hole because you've been there before. It's kind of like if you go, I don't know if you go to the gym or you have a fitness goal and you start off in the beginning and you think I'll never ever reach it, and then you get there and you think wow, it's amazing, and then you go on holiday and you've got the best bikini body, and then you come back and training's slipping off and things are a few more G&Ts and things are happening, but then what happens is you look back at the photos and you think no, I got there, I did it, I can do it again. And that's why I think journaling is such an impactful thing to do, because journaling through the good and the bad times, because it also means that when you're in your high, you think, oh my God, look how far I've come. This time 3 months ago, I was on my knees. look, and there's a sense of pride and a sense of empowerment that you've actually pulled yourself through this or got through this. And then, but equally, when you're in your really high state, or if you're in your low state and you've had a really good state, you can look back and think, what was I doing then? I haven't been journaling. I haven't been meditating. Okay, I've been doing a lot of takeouts because work's been busy. Okay, it's time to realign. It's time to change my habits to empower myself.
Awesome. That's really good advice. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, that was awesome. And I've already downloaded that Flora app.
I think you can all check people out. So you've got friends that you can text your friends. Say, I've noticed you just didn't plant a tree. Get off your phone. Stop scrolling.
That would give
It's
you
great.
so much anxiety.
Yeah,
My friends being able to check in.
It's so good. And Victoria, I promise you, as soon as you think you're going to scroll and it says you can't, I literally drop my phone like it's just electrocuted me, and I think, oh my god, the poor kids, start focusing on my work.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
And
it's really good.
But it's also, I'm sure you'll find in the beginning, it's a huge awareness of how much you default to just picking up your phone in moments of boredom.
Yeah.
Whoa, that is a big one.
And it's good because it really resonates with me, because I've tried journaling, I've tried meditation, I've tried lots of different things, and I kind of get into a bit of a habit and routine, and it works for a little bit, and then I fall off the wagon. And it's really good to know that you can. I think that's really important, that you can just pick and choose what you want depending on, and I don't, because I feel like if I'm not doing it, I'm failing. So I think it's really good that's a take home for me, is that I can pick and choose different things. And for example, like you said, the run. I mean, running and swimming for me, because I went swimming last night, I was like, oh my God, I forgot how much I love swimming. And that's very therapeutic rather than just going to the gym with the push music and, all that sort of stuff. And I can't run at the moment because obviously the rain. So the swimming was just so good. It's just what I needed. So just, knowing that you can just use little bits and bobs and you're not failing, I think.
Yeah.
Me.
And the other thing also, Victoria, it's a big piece around that is language. Because if you, like you say, oh, I didn't do it because I'm failing, that would put you into a negative vibration. Yeah. And therefore, what will happen is you won't want to start again because you'll go, well, you're just going to fail.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go, hi, that's okay. You know what? I've actually been really busy. I just didn't even notice that my meditation fell off the wagon. That's all right. Okay. Well, I can't control the last amount of weeks that I didn't do it. But what I do know, I'm going to start now, and I'm going to make a small commitment. And every morning I'm getting up 10 minutes early. And you know what? If I miss a morning, that's all right. I'm fine with that. Because your intention is to be there and to do it. And then you change your language, and then it lifts up. We all fall off the wagon. We all have these moments when we don't do it. And it always happens like that. But it's about the language. And it's about, it's like when I was talking about the I am. And if people are feeling anxious and you go, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. And then where if you were to then say, my body's experiencing a feeling of anxiousness right now, and that's okay. And then you sit with it. So again, the language is super important. And instead of saying like I failed, to say, I'm going to do my meditations again because I love it. Or, I am a meditator. There's a book called Atomic Habits, which I cannot tell you. So good.
I haven't read it, and I've got to I must read that.
Do you know what? It's funny. I thought this morning I'll reread it, but he talks about the language. So I'm a meditator. I do meditation every day, and you can just walk around talking to yourself if you can, or in your head, and even writing it a couple of times. Like I've got little post-its like this, and quite often I just write on them, I'm a meditator, I meditate, or whatever my thing at the time is. And then you're just creating that vibration in your mind. And remember, the mind doesn't know whether it's a truth or a lie. So by saying, I'm a meditator, I meditate, you're then creating that pattern within the body to go, oh, I'm meditating. And then you will naturally get there.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah. And I think it's trying to make, like you were saying, some of those rituals, not turning it into a stressful thing if you don't do it one day. I think that's probably the key as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anna. I can see your messages coming through. So it's about time. It's about 3 p.m. So Thanks everyone for coming. We've got a recording of this as well if you want to have a watch back, or we've got a few people who weren't able to make it, so they'll be able to watch this back. Emma, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
They can get in touch with me via my message, phone, email, LinkedIn, whatever way they want. I can give you my details, Christina, and you can send them out.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds great. All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Well, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.